In this lesson, we will learn how to use two tools that we will need quite often while working in SketchUp: the Push-Pull tool and the Move tool. With the Push-Pull tool, you can extrude surfaces to add or subtract volume, while with the Move tool, you can move or copy points, lines, surfaces, and even an entire model. In this example, I will create the two 3D models in the scene from scratch using these tools. First, I need to add volume to the rectangles that I have created in advance. To achieve this, I am going to use the Push-Pull. You can activate this tool if you expand the Tools menu and select the Push-Pull option. Alternatively, you can simply click on the Push-Pull icon that you will find in the toolbar on the left. Once I activate it, the message, "Pick face to push or pull," appears in the status bar. This means that you should select a surface to extrude. Since the first rectangle consists of lines and has no surface, I will activate the Rectangle tool and define the opposite corners to create the surface. Now I will activate the Push-Pull again and click on the surface. Note that as I move the cursor towards the Z-axis, I can add volume either upward or downward. To extrude a shape, you can just click or type a value that will define the height of the extrusion. In this example, I will type 2.8 and press enter. This way, I created a 2.8 meter high wall. With the Push-Pull tool active, I will add to the adjacent surface the same height by double-clicking on it. Notice that the second surface has been extruded by 2.8 units. In other words, by double-clicking on a surface, you can extrude it as much as you did on the previous surface. Note that you can perform additional extrusions on any surface by selecting a point or distance. Now, to restore the height of the last extrusion to the same height as the one on the left, I will just click on its top surface and move the cursor to the top edge of the left object. Once the message, "On edge," appears, I will click again and notice that the solid's height is the same as the extrusion on the left. Now, I will show you how to create roofs. In the first example, I will create a roof by defining the height, while in the second example, I will create a pitched roof by defining the angle of the slope. I will begin with the first roof, which will be 1 meter high. I will activate the Line tool from the toolbar to draw a line on the top surface of the left object. As I draw the line, notice that the cursor snaps to the midpoints of the edges, so it's easy to create a line that divides the top surface into two equal parts. To create the roof using the line I just created, I need to move the line along the Z-axis. To do this, I will use the Move tool. You can activate the Move tool if you expand the Tools menu and select Move tool. Or you can just click on the Move icon that you can find in the toolbar on the left. At this point, I will activate the Move tool. Automatically, the message, "Use select tool or pick one thing to move," appears in the status bar. So, in other words, I can either use the Select tool or click directly on the object I want to move. It is advisable to use the Select tool only when you want to move multiple objects. If you want to move only one object, you can simply click on it. Since I only want to move the line, I will click on it. Notice that the line moves according to how I move the cursor. Now, if you take a look at the status bar, you can see how certain keys affect the command. If I press the Control key once, the object will not be moved, it will be copied instead. If I press the Alt key once, I will be able to move the line on the XY plane. While holding down the Shift key, the axis I am moving the object on is locked, and I cannot move on any other axis. I will hover the cursor over the Z-axis, type the number 1, and press enter. This way, I created a roof 1 meter high. In the next example, I will create a pitched roof. To do this, I will activate the Protractor tool that we have learned how to use in previous lessons. Notice that the protractor appeared in the drawing area. I will click to place the protractor at the upper left corner of the object's front surface. Then I will align it horizontally, type 45, and press enter. This way, I created an auxiliary line at 45 degrees. I will repeat the same process for the other corner of the object. Now that I have created the auxiliary lines that I need, I will activate the Line tool and draw a triangle using those lines. Notice that the surface is created automatically. Now, I will activate the Push-Pull tool once again. I will click on the front surface and extrude it. As you can see, both roofs are now finished.